Hi, and welcome to this edition of A Conversation With. I'm Jim Marshall of the New Bedford Cable Network, and joining us for a second go-around, he felt he survived the first one, so he's coming in again, Rick Kidder, the co-CEO of One SouthCoast Chamber of Commerce. Good to see you again.
Good to see you, Jim. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's been about 6 months or so, and not much has happened in that time for any of us, but as we come into the holiday season, I wanted to bring Rick in just to talk about,
Sure.
it's such an important year for businesses, an important time of year, and not just, the holiday season, but even right through New Year's. This is a time that a lot of businesses have to make their money to at least survive the year. So I wanted Rick to come in and talk about some of the important things that the businesses are facing, some of the things they're offering perhaps, and what you as a consumer should be looking for as well.
Right.
Before we do that, though, like I said, it's been about 6 months, and you were talking the last time you were here about what the Chamber was doing, handling the COVID-19 pandemic. 6 months later, things are still tough for businesses, although it has eased up a little bit since the last time you were here, but still tough times for businesses. How are things going for the Chamber in general and for just what you see the businesses here in the greater New Bedford area?
Sure. Thank you, Jim. You know, to be perfectly honest with you, I don't think any one of us looked at this 6 months ago and said we are still going to be where we were. We are in a new normal, and that new normal is one that until we have a widespread vaccine, we're going to find ourselves with the ups and downs of spikes, the challenges to business, particularly to small business, and the ability that most businesses now have to figure out ways to pivot. We're heading into the holiday season now, and pivoting in the holiday season is going to be very important because, as you rightly said, these small businesses depend on this season mightily in order to make it happen. But the Chamber has been working sort of non-stop on trying to educate businesses on opportunities that are out there. We were pretty lucky fairly early on that a number of the unemployed were able to get a $600 federal stipend. And I'm sorry to say that Washington has not been able to come up with another COVID relief plan, probably largely due to presidential politics. But with the presidential politics now behind us, we're rather hoping that these things are going to start to come to fruition because people need this money and the unemployment rate is high. We've been able to fill a lot of jobs, which is great, but it's still infinitely higher than we want it to be. And we as a chamber, as a business organization, have to support those small businesses going forward, because if we can't support them going forward, they are going to have a challenging time.
The Chamber itself, too, the way it operates, everything has changed. Has it been easier, harder? Some people say, well, because it's you're online and stuff, it's a lot easier. But I would assume that the lack of one-on-one human contact makes it actually more difficult.
It does. If you kind of go with what our business model is and what Chambers of Commerce have been forever, they have been connectors between people, and a lot of that connection has been face-to-face kinds of connections. I will tell you the one advantage I've had, unlike you right now, I have not put on a necktie since March. And normally I'm putting on ties and emceeing events and doing all of those things that we can't have. The Chamber itself, if you look at our budget structure, about 40% of our budget was events. And so you look at that and go, bang.
And I can't help but think, sorry to interrupt, but I can't help but think that the State of the City is one of your biggest, if not the biggest event here in New Bedford. And as you were talking about, you MC that, and that's, everybody's there.
Yes.
And that's, to me, that's just one event.
It is.
But a huge loss.
It is. And if you go to a big event that was a huge loss, we always do Chowder Fest on the pier. What an incredible event that is. 4,000 people come out. It's a great moneymaker for us, but it helps to support our budget. But the challenge on that was we had to take that virtual and turn it into a road show. So we've had to be creative along the way in order to make sure that our event revenue doesn't go from this to zero.
Right.
So we've been able to do some things online. Thanks to Mayor Mitchell, we were able to do the State of the City as an online event.
Right.
We had wonderful sponsor support for that, which was terrific, and that actually helped us a great deal because unlike the big event that we do with the mayor, which we'd much rather do, we're not paying for 450 or 500 meals going forward. So for us, that turned out to be a more profitable event than it normally would be. So we've had to be creative about it. And I have to tell you, our businesses that support us in the sponsorship side have hung in there with us, and we can't thank them enough.
But how far, I mean, for businesses right now, and obviously I know it depends on the industry and what have you, but as you said, the federal government help is not there right now. How much longer can these businesses in general survive?
I'm not sure they even know. Here's the challenge. I think for most small businesses, long-term planning is the weekend. For these small business owners, they are the president, they're the CEO, they're the CFO, they're the HR director, they are the payroll guy.
They're the janitor.
They're the janitor. They are all of those things.
Right.
And right now, they're kind of going from week to week, from month to month. We have seen that there are certain industries that have actually done well, in fact, even done better during the pandemic.
Really?
I was talking recently, for example, with a company that redoes people's kitchens.
Yeah, I have understood that people right now have been doing either outside improvements to their home or inside improvements to their home.
Home improvement is something we're spending a lot more time at home. We're not going out as much. People are not going out as much. But the challenge for them, of course, is that they've got to do that all within their COVID guidelines and make sure that it's safe. But for folks, home has become even more important than it ever was. And so for people who have been able to do renovations and things of that kind, it's been pretty successful. For other kinds of businesses, you look at retail establishments, hospitality industry. Hospitality industry has been buried. We're fortunate that we also operate the Southeast Massachusetts Visitors Bureau. So we were just able to put out, for many of our communities that we serve, which is all of Bristol County, we were able to put out a small grants program for holiday decorations, because downtowns, main streets, small places need that help much more than they've needed it before.
Right. And let's talk about the holiday season now,
sure.
Because it is, and I want to make sure I'm right. I mean, I've heard before for some cases, it's up to 40% of their annual revenue.
Yes.
That's a huge, and that's what, basically right before Thanksgiving till New Year's?
It used to be.
Yeah.
It used to be, but it's become an expanded season, really.
Right.
Right now, that season has gone from Halloween until we hope it doesn't end. Black Friday can't be Black Friday anymore.
Right.
You look at Small Business Saturday, which we're still doing. Small Business Saturday is still going to happen, and we really want people to go out and support those small businesses. But those small businesses, those little stores, can only have so many people inside at once. People have to be able to be patient about that. But more than ever, supporting small business is going to be important.
I wanted to talk to you about, so from a consumer standpoint, you're talking to these businesses. What advice do you give for a consumer who is physically going out shopping? I don't even know I mean, there are guidelines.
There are guidelines, and you follow those guidelines, because the governor, I believe, has done an exceptional job of managing these pieces of it. But the reality is that we're only as healthy as we allow ourselves to be.
Right.
And for these small businesses, they've got to keep them sterilized. They've got to keep them clean. People have to feel safe and comfortable going into those businesses, and they need to advertise that fact. They need to let people know that they are clean and sterile and ready for people to come in. And at the same time, people need to have the faith and confidence that these small businesses right now need their support, and it may take a little more patience. Shopping may take a little bit more patience than it did before, because you can only have so many people in a store at once. But a lot of these stores have also worked to increase their online presence. And you and I were talking before the show about gift cards, and many places now have gift certificates or gift cards that can be used so that people can extend their shopping season through the holidays.
And I'm curious about, for example, the in-store shopping experience. Say we're going to a clothing store.
Right.
And a lot of times people try on clothes. I don't know if they can do that now. I mean, I would assume that there are things that demonstrations aren't going to be taking place. And
correct.
So that's going to, does that make things more difficult for the business, for the consumer? I guess for both.
For all of the above.
Yeah.
It makes things more difficult for all of the above. However, being able to walk into a store and hold something up, look at it, and see, I think this would look good on so-and-so, or I think this would look good on me, is still a lot easier than going onto Amazon and looking at pictures of it on a model. So you want to be able to personalize the experience as much as you can, but you have to do it within safe guidelines. And that has changed our dynamic.
What are you hearing from I guess retailers themselves? Are they not optimistic, but do they want the people to come to the store,
Absolutely.
Or do they want to be safe and say shop online?
They want people to come to the store.
Okay.
They want people. These are storefronts for a reason. They're storefronts because they want to do person-to-person sales and contact. If they only wanted an online presence, I suppose they could save a lot of money on rent, but they would never have that personal experience that you and I get when we walk into a store and say, that's something I want. So I think every retailer I've talked with is welcoming people with open arms.
Okay.
They're just doing it carefully.
I would assume that hours are going to be regulated. I know the
Yes.
governor's got the extension on the end, but I know a lot of businesses aren't open till 10 o'clock anyway.
Correct.
But you've got to, we just said, you're CEO, but you're also the janitor, so you've got to
Yep.
clean. So hours are going to be regulated.
Absolutely. They're going to regulate hours, and of course we're in the midst of a spike now. And as we take a look at that spike, we're going to see perhaps more and more restrictions. We don't know. We may find ourselves in a position where, God forbid, we're in another lockdown. And if we're in another lockdown, it could be the death knell for a lot of these small businesses who are just hanging on. The same is true in the hospitality industry. That's an industry that desperately needs an infusion of help, whether it's restaurants, hotels, all of those things that to some degree, we've taken for granted as always been there. They may not always be there if they don't get some assistance.
Does it help, on the aside, does it help, for example, a hotel that you want to book something in next June, but the hotel isn't seeing the money until June?
Correct.
Could that be too late? Let's put it that way.
To be honest with you, in some cases, yes, and in some cases, no.
Okay.
Obviously, they may be seeing a deposit, and they're able to hold that deposit and at least know that they have incoming business that's coming. But for a lot of them, it may not make enough of a difference to matter if they're operating at a 20% occupancy rate. What they've had to do is trim their staffs dramatically. They've had to work very, very hard to build a new type of business. For example, within the work that we do, we're trying to build local business as much as we can. And even with our work with the Tourism Bureau, we may not have people coming from New York. We may not have people coming from Canada the way we used to have them. But we can have people who come from Providence. We can have people who come from Worcester. We can have people who can do in-state exciting opportunities. For example, at Christmas time this year, Santa's actually going to be going up and just for fun spending Christmas Eve and Christmas Day in Boston. And we know that we're staying in a lovely hotel, and we know that we're staying at a rate that is absurdly low, given what it ought to be or would normally have been. But we're taking advantage of that. And I think a lot of people can take advantage of that and produce some revenue.
Right, the day trips right now are going to be huge.
The short weekends, the midweek weekends.
Right.
And a lot of people, interestingly enough, it's funny, a lot of people have used it or lose it vacation time. And this has been such a crazy year, they haven't taken their vacation time. So maybe taking a few days here and there and supporting some of these local businesses in New Bedford would be exactly what the doctor ordered.
Are the retailers looking to hire right now?
Is
there a need?
Some of the retailers are hiring.
Okay.
Most of the small retailers are as staffed up as they probably need to be at this point. Some of the major chains you'll see are hiring. But even that, they're not hiring at as robust a level as they once did because they're just not seeing the foot traffic that they used to see. Where the large retailers kind of have it over the small guy is that they've had successful and robust online presences for a long time. We're not seeing that here, but we're seeing a lot more of small businesses who are doing stuff on Facebook that are providing gift cards or gift certificates as an available gift for them, and that produces money for them.
Talk to we touched upon it briefly, but the gift cards themselves, which have been, and I told you off camera about, we usually go to a couple restaurants, we buy them. Should people be reluctant to buy them?
No,
Okay.
Not at all. The biggest risk, the biggest potential risk, is that the business won't be there when you go to use the gift card. But quite frankly, if people don't do that, then the business won't be there. So we need to actually have that faith, have that trust that those businesses are going to be able to survive and make it. We're putting together a Dining and Deals coupon book for the holidays. We're working with a lot of our members and a lot of the folks who are in Chowderfest and a lot of our retailers to provide coupons. And that little coupon book is, I think, going to sell for all of $15. It's not going to be very much, but the goal is to get those coupon savings out to people and to have them use them throughout 2021 and spread out their use so that these companies can actually get that money.
The online aspect of it, the online presence, obviously the big name brand stores have the online presence.
Correct.
Do you find a lot of the smaller businesses have an online presence?
Yes, and I think increasingly so. Increasingly what you're seeing is that small retailers have realized that they need to have an online presence in order to supplement the sales that they otherwise would not have been able to make during COVID. So you've seen quite a few of these small retailers who have gone to selling more and more online and building a base there while still trying to get them into the stores, because they definitely want to get them there.
We're talking to Rick Kidder from One SouthCoast Chamber, and we're talking about the holiday season. What do you find, or what are you seeing as far as people spending money? This is just such a different year, and usually people are going to spend more, but
right.
What are you seeing right now? What are you hearing?
What I'm hearing is that there's uncertainty, and the uncertainty that you hear when you hear general uncertainty among folks, part of that general uncertainty is, I think I'm going to sit on my cash for a bit. So people may be spending a little bit less than they have in the past. I think what's most important for folks to know is that the dollar that they spend locally is an infinitely more valuable dollar than the dollar they spend to a national chain. That local dollar is local jobs. That local dollar is also recirculated throughout our economy, and quite frankly, 80 cents of a dollar that's spent locally stays local.
Yeah,
that's important, because you spend it online and purchase something for $2 less from China. Where's your dollar gone? Your dollar's gone there and stays there.
The other question too, when you're dealing with online, is the shipping aspect.
Yes.
And I'm seeing reports that, people are going to have to not only purchase earlier, but ship earlier.
Yes. In fact, I saw a recent United States Postal Service interview where they were talking about how if you're sending gifts for the holidays, they expect to handle 30 billion packages. That's a staggering number. And they're suggesting that actually the first week of December should be your target date for making sure that those get in the mail. That's important also, because you can buy a lot of things locally that you send to places elsewhere.
Right.
And if you're sending them via the post office, just make sure you plan ahead.
One of your predecessors years ago told me, which was funny, he's like, you don't have to go more than 15 miles in any direction to find really anything you need or you want for the holiday season.
Other than out to sea, you're probably right.
Which is what I found interesting when you really think about that. It's like there's nothing, he was saying there's nothing that you can buy elsewhere that you can't buy here.
There's absolutely nothing, including if you're a foodie and you're looking for absolute gourmet things, never forget that Sid Wainer store. It's absolutely remarkable. If you're looking for something for your home, or you're looking for something as a gift for someone, you never have to go more than 15 miles to find it. It's there. And so our chamber is really pushing as much as we can. Please shop locally, keep those dollars local, and get people the jobs they need.
How about advertising, going from the business standpoint? We just said that, and I totally agree with that. But if you don't know, if you're a consumer X and you're looking for something, but you don't know what's out there, how do you find it?
Well, that is an interesting issue, because we found ourselves in a it used to be put an ad in the local newspaper. And what we've seen of the evolution of print media is that print media has become a lot less relevant for businesses and advertising as it had in the past. The demise of print media is a topic that we could get into, and I would lament for a long, long time. We need it. But the challenge,
so would I, as a matter of fact. But
the interesting challenge is that it's been supplanted to some degree by people pushing goods and services on Facebook, or through Instagram, or through other kinds of social media platforms. And one of the challenges that a lot of businesses have is they aren't necessarily social media savvy.
Right.
And we've been, for example, running training programs for small businesses. We have one that's actually going to be before this show airs, but we have one upcoming that will actually be trying to teach small businesses how to use social media well.
I would assume that is a huge issue right now.
It is
for businesses.
Gigantic
especially with
issue.
So many small businesses that are part of your organization.
Yes.
And again, you have that issue where if you don't know what's out there, I mean, there's always the staples that you know.
Right.
But, and I go back to, you don't have to go more than 15 miles to find anything you want, but if you don't know where it is.
Right. If you don't know that the Bedford Merchant has incredible things as great gifts for people's houses, for example,
right,
and there's no way of their knowing it other than word of mouth, that's no longer as effective an advertising medium as it used to be. Word of mouth is great, but we're not getting together much either.
Well, that's what I'm saying. The pandemic has changed, I guess, advertising.
It has.
Well, I don't want to say it's changed advertising, but it's changed the way a business has to promote itself.
Correct. You know, what we've seen for us as a chamber, and we've tried to model this for businesses, is we have substantially changed our social media presence. We used to post occasionally, and social media was a nice little afterthought. It's no longer a nice little afterthought. It is actually the centerpiece of our marketing efforts as an organization on behalf of small businesses. So every business needs to be able to adapt to that, build a social media presence. I don't know if
keywords, right? You have to have the keywords in your social media. I mean, if you're selling, I don't know, Chinese, whatever.
Right.
But you got to know that you have it.
And you need to have good visuals.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have good visuals, it's fascinating when you look at social media that the attention span of an individual who is flipping through Facebook, what do they stop on? They stop on a great visual. Mm-hmm. You're also seeing increasingly on social media video content. And video content is actually getting more attention than even static photographs now. So more and more getting people's attention is through that medium. And it is, for many small businesses, it's a whole new ballgame.
And I'm not just talking about buying things, I'm talking services too.
Services as well.
I mean, because you can give a service for Christmas.
Absolutely.
And if you're looking for somebody but you don't know where to find them, I just think that's a fascinating issue coming up, especially this year.
Yeah. I mean, you can actually, and it's funny, I learned this via Facebook, you can go to, say, a Surf Pro, and one of the gifts that you could give is sterilizing somebody's house for them. What an interesting gift. You never would have thought of that a year ago. None of us would have thought of it. But sending a team in to make sure that their office or their place of business or something like that, what a great gift for someone.
Right.
So we're looking at things a whole different way, and it's sped up what was already happening. We'd already seen the beginning of the demise of print. We'd already seen the rise in social media platforms.
Yeah.
But what we're seeing now is a rise in the sophisticated use of those social media platforms.
Got a couple minutes left. I want to make sure we touch on you've been able to honor a few businesses because you've had your annual meeting. And
yeah, in fact, that's very exciting for us because normally we would have had multiple events, and we combined a bunch of events into one of which is our annual meeting, which for us is our inaugural annual meeting as One SouthCoast Chamber. But with that, we've also been able to honor some individuals, normally separate events again. But the Valcourt Award is something that we inherited from the Bristol County Chamber that is now a One SouthCoast Chamber event, and that honors an outstanding citizen. And this year we chose to honor Keith Hoven, who is the president and CEO of SouthCoast Health. And we did so knowing that in honoring Keith Hoven, we are honoring all of the folks at SouthCoast Health who have worked so hard to keep folks alive, to stem the tide of this pandemic. They've put in some unbelievable hours and some unbelievable stress in that process. And the hospital system, by losing a lot of their business that is, quote, voluntary kinds of stuff, they've lost a lot along the way and had to perform their function while taking losses, and they've done an amazing job. So we wanted to honor Keith Hoven as an outstanding citizen. But we also wanted to honor an organization that the Chamber put together with one of our members, Brad Simmons, called Feed the First Responders. And so that they've won one of the Brayton Awards, and the Brayton Awards are for community leadership. And Feed the First Responders was an effort for us to provide a hot meal and to provide a little fun for our police and fire and hospital workers. And that's been so successful, we're going to continue it next year. And so we honored Brad Simmons for that, a man named Adam St. Hours, who designed the t-shirts, and Sergio Dabdu, who did all the video work, because as I said, Facebook, video, need that.
You gotta have that, yeah.
Gotta push that out. But also the Vietnam Memorial Committee, because of the Vietnam Memorial Wall that's going up in Fall River, we were able to honor them as well. So this has been a really exciting time for us to be able to pay attention to some things that are very important.
That are still going on.
That are still going on.
Right.
And be able to do it. Of course, we've had to do it via Zoom, but we've been able to get it done.
Nobody even knew what Zoom was.
Exactly.
Got a minute left exactly. I just want you to, most important things for people right now as they go into this shopping season.
As they go into the shopping season, make sure that wherever you go is safe. Make sure that you are not in crowds of people. This is a difficult time, and we want to be together in crowds. We want to be together with our big and extended families, and I'd say please don't do that. But do whatever you can to support these local businesses. And I'll bet you that every one of these local businesses will greet you with a level of gratitude that they might never have shown before, because they recognize how important it is this year. So if there's one word I can leave it with, it's shop local, stay local, and that Santa Claus is still coming to town.
It's good seeing you.
Good to see you, Jim.
All right, enjoy the holiday season too.
Thank you, and you too.
That's going to do it for this edition of A Conversation with Rick Kidder. I thank him for coming in. Thank you for watching. We'll talk to you again soon.